nights, which is pretty good for me. Gonna do more and more of these, get people involved, getting to know these candidates. We talk a lot about primaries and Democratic Party, and want to get you guys to know the primary candidates as much as possible. And as we're working on, we're gonna have tonight Mai Vang, who is running in California's 7th congressional district, and she will be right here, just emailing with her team right now. I need to go live, but I did, so we gotta get her on here. That's my fault. But yeah, she is running for Congress. She is challenging, and we'll talk about this obviously, but she is challenging Doris Matsui, who's been there since she's elected in 2005. So my bang is much younger and running and brings a new perspective. So give us a minute, and we will get her on here. There she is joining, and see her in the chat. When she joins as a co-host, we will be good to go. Let me do this here. Let me have her join as a co-host. And I apologize for you guys watching this. I am still kind of learning how to do this as we make progress. But I think should be here very soon. I would say that I'm working as a New Yorker. I was excited to see Zorma Donnie with Donald Trump today and playing him like a fiddle, getting about maybe $21 billion for affordable housing in New York City, which is pretty cool, to build on the west side of Queens. So that is a pretty big deal. We will have Mai Bang with us very soon. Give me a moment here, and she will be here. I will have her here in a moment. You're watching how the magic happens. There we go.
Oh my God, is it working?
Yes, it is. There we go. How are you?
Hi. Oh my God. Are we live? We're hella live right now.
We're live. You're hella live. You are Northern California, if I ever heard it.
Yes. Yeah,
Hello.
well, South Sacramento. Hi, Jordan. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Okay, there's 18 people on. I see folks coming in. Great.
Yeah,
Hi,
no,
how are you? I was
fine.
like a little worried because I was like, this is my first Substack interview.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm honored. We're honored
Yeah.
to have you here.
Well, my first interview was supposed to be with Jess Craven, but we had some technical difficulties. And so she had a live chat, and I was like on watching, and I'm like, I have the other end, but I can't get in. So like this is the first. So it was really great. I was hoping we wouldn't have any technical issues. So
We're good. We are good. Thank you for being here. I mean, it is a little bit earlier there. You're in California in South Sacramento, but thank you for being here, taking some of your evening. You are running. It's been a busy week for you, and I want to kind of jump right into it. First, running against one of the most senior Democrats in Congress, Doris Matsui, who's been a representative, all good there, in the 7th district in California for a long time. They changed the 7th district a little bit, but like, all right. So you're a councilwoman. You remember the city council and stuff in Sacramento. You remember the board of education before that. Tell me about why you decided this is the moment to run.
yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say for those that are online, hi y'all. Nice to meet you all. And yeah, I mean, Jordan, if we were having this conversation a year ago on February 26th in 2025, and you told me that I was running for Congress, I wouldn't believe you. I don't take running against an incumbent lightly. I know that it's going to be an uphill battle, especially taking on a millionaire married to a billionaire. But since I've been on the ground since Trump was elected again, second term, there's been so many issues happening on the ground. And I've been on the front lines with mutual aid networks, with grassroots organizations, with advocates on the ground, really trying to hold the line. And my decision to run was basically when I met with the congresswoman and her answer to me. Let me take it back and just tell you the story of that actually led me to the moment. Um, you know, Last summer, I had not yet decided if I was going to run for Congress. For the first 5 months under the Trump administration, our Latino neighbors were being detained at the federal mosque building while they were doing their routine ICE check-in. I had received calls from families, Hmong refugees who were being kidnapped by ICE in Sacramento. And there was one call in particular that really broke my heart when a home father who was watering his front yard was picked up in a black SUV in front of his family. And I actually wanted an opportunity to speak with the Congresswoman to see what we can do in partnership as someone who really believes in, partnership and coalition building and understanding that we need all levels of government to work together. As a city council member, I tried to email her. My team emailed her about 5 to 6 times to schedule a meeting between January and May. Didn't hear back. Nothing scheduled. And at the end of August of last year, I finally secured a meeting with her. And definitely will share with you a little bit how that meeting went.
Yeah,
And it has
please.
a lot to do with actually why I'm here today, why I made my decision to run. In addition to just supporting mutual aid efforts, holding the line, I really want an opportunity to speak with her because I'm API Asian American woman, and I have deep love and gratitude for our elders, right? And so, I walked into that meeting with the intention to really inform her about what was going on in our community. And during that time, I thanked her for her service. I shared what we had been doing on the ground, like protecting immigrants and refugees, mutual aid efforts, Know Your Rights workshop, initiatives that I'm supporting throughout the state to pardon refugees. And during the meeting, I asked her, what her position was on immigration. And she turned to her staff and was like, "What is our position on immigration?" And her staff then asked me if I had spoken to the senator that represent our area and the assembly member. And I had answered, yes, I have spoken to our state electeds, but immigration is a federal issue. And so in that moment was when I realized that we didn't have the leadership we needed to really protect our families, but leadership that didn't understand what was happening on the ground. And in that moment was when I decided that I was going to do this. And at the end of that meeting, I found the courage to tell her that I was running. And that was kind of like that was the conversation that really reaffirmed to me that we needed someone in the halls of Congress that understand the day-to-day struggles of our working families. I mean, I am a daughter of Hmong refugees. I was born and raised in South Sacramento. I'm the oldest of 16 children. I'm someone with college student debt, a recent newlywed as well,
Congratulations.
to a thanks to a son of Mexican immigrants. And so, who works in the auto industry, and he works 12-hour shifts, and he's picking up extra shifts to make sure that we can, pay our bills. And so I think it's really important to have somebody who understands these lived struggles. And so that's why we're running. And I do get the critique that I'm young and inexperienced, and that in this moment, seniority is what we need. I've heard that loud and clear at the Democratic Party convention this
Yes.
past weekend. And what I will share with you is that, if seniority was so important, we wouldn't be here in this moment. It didn't save us, right? And we've lost to Trump 2 times. And this moment really requires leaders who could meet the moment. And so that's why I'm in this race. And the other piece is also, I don't take any corporate PAC money. This is completely grassroots. Over 96% of our donations come from individual donors. The rest are organizations like Working Families Party, No Dems Left Behind, progressive organizations. And so we are running a completely grassroots organization, grassroots campaign. And so really, really proud of the team. Excited. We have less than what, 97, 96 days to go, but we know it's going to be an uphill climb. So
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. Like so I just want to take back to your story, personal story is incredible, and there's so much there. But I want to that meeting with Representative Matsui, who she has been represented the district since 2005. I think she was elected 2005 to six, and so she took over for her husband, or her late husband, who was there from 1979 on, and she's 80 or so, and so you went in wanting to talk to her about immigration, and you left literally saying to her, "I'm going to challenge you." How did she? Were you thinking about doing it beforehand, and then how did she respond?
yeah, I was considering it, but I told the team, like with my friends, I was like, hey, I really want an opportunity to speak with her. Because she's someone I respect, I have deep gratitude for, and I want to have a conversation with her. I was actually walking in that meeting hoping she would give me something, say something, so that I wouldn't even make the decision to run. And when we had that conversation, I was, my palms were sweaty. I was really nervous because I was having conversation with myself, like, are you going to do this? And if you do this, are you going to tell her? Because you may not get an opportunity to tell her, because I wouldn't run unless I get to sit down and talk to her. Right. And so
Okay.
that was the moment. I had like, it was a 10 o'clock meeting and it was 10:28. I had 2 minutes left. And I was like, this is the moment that I'm going to tell her. I'm going to tell her that I'm considering running. And her response was, "You're running against me?" And then I said, well, I can't talk about campaigns because we're in the federal building. And I did request to have this meeting outside of the federal building, but your team was not able to accommodate. I'm willing to move my entire schedule around for you. You let me know when you can meet. And since then, I have not heard a phone. I haven't gotten a phone
Mm.
call or an email.
Yeah. So I mean, she must have been. I mean, no one's really challenged her, right? She's been in office for 20 years. This is, I think, you're the first real challenge she's received.
Yeah, the first, yeah, serious, viable challenger for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think it's no secret that when we announced our campaign in September on 916 Day, that's our area code for Sacramento, um, it was no secret that like the three mayors of the largest city within Congressional District 7 threw their support behind the incumbent. And a big part of that is, change is hard. But I am someone that is not afraid to take on the establishment. I am the progressive on the city council. And sometimes I am on the 7-2 end or the 8-1 vote. Um, and I am not afraid to take on the establishment, the local establishment. Um, and so, yeah, we're in this, and there is a lot of energy from constituents, many volunteers. We're running one of the largest field game in this region has ever seen. So we're super excited, but we know that uh, we just got to get our message across to voters, right? Like the point of like a congressional race is like, how do you scale up, right? Because
Right.
my council district my council district makes up about 10% of the congressional district. That means like
Yeah.
90% of voters outside in Congressional District 7 will need to know who I am and our message. And so we've been canvassing, 6 to 7 days, like the whole week now, and doing everything we can to fundraise, to get our message across. But I'm very confident in my team, and they're all grassroots organizer, and grateful to have the support of some national organization. Working Families Party was the first organization to throw down and to support our campaign, and proud to be supported by our nurses, the largest nurses union as well, and National United Healthcare Workers. So we're really excited, and also proud to have the support of Justice Democrats, right?
Yep.
The organization that recruited AOC, and they're only selecting 12 candidates this year, and we're one of them, and because they're betting on us. And so yeah, we're really excited about the campaign, but we know it's going to be an uphill climb. So
I mean, you found out, like you alluded to this weekend. This weekend, for people who are not in California or not really in tune to the inner workings of caucus politics, it was the California Democratic Convention, and I know that they nominate or they give their endorsement to people there. Obviously, not nominate, but they give their endorsement to candidates, and generally, it's a place where incumbents, enjoy support, and there was no difference there in this case. I know that, but there was some. I'll let you talk about it, but there was a power broker there. He's a well-known name that kind of you feel like put the thumb on the scale. So to walk us through everything that happened, because I'm sure
yeah,
you thought, I don't know, I'm gonna get the endorsement anyways, but this is something different.
yeah. Well, this is my first time at the Democratic Convention, and this past Saturday, it just happened this weekend. This past Saturday, it was an opportunity for the delegates in Congressional District 7 to cast their vote for the candidate that they want to endorse on behalf of the Democratic Party. And so, we did a 5-minute opening. The agenda was 5 minutes. We gave her the floor first out of respect. Then I did my 5 minutes. Then we took questions from the audience, Q&A from delegates. And then the debate ended right after we finished the 3 questions. Then they handed the mic to Emeritus Nancy Pelosi. I thought she was just going to do some welcome remarks, thank the Democrats for being here, but it ended up being pretty much a campaign speech of we're a big tent, and it's great to see young people here, but what we need is experience. And I support my friend Doris, and it was a whole campaign speech. And then I think some of the delegates, some of the young folks in the room, I could feel the energy in the room was like, is Mai going to get an opportunity to have someone speak on our behalf? And then they came up to me and was like, do you have any elected officials in the audience? was like, they're all delegates. So I looked and my colleague, Councilwoman Katie Maple, had endorsed me, but we weren't going to roll out her endorsement until later this week. And then I said, I do. I have someone, and she was prepared. And I locked eyes with her, and I was like, Councilwoman Katie Maple, can you please come on stage? And she came up and spoke, with our full chest. And I think one of the lines that she said was, that she too, like me, have deep gratitude and respect for our elders and folks who have paved the way, but that good leadership is about knowing when to pass down the torch. And especially in this moment, it is about making sure that we have leaders in the halls of Congress that understands what is going on the ground. That is so key. And so that happened. And then, we were hoping that, that she would fall within the under the 2/3 threshold, because if that was the case, we had about 50 volunteers, delegates ready to collect 300 signatures that night to force a floor vote on Sunday, and we were 1 or 2 votes away. She got about 67%. But I do think a big part of that was the influence of Nancy Pelosi. What I will share with you is that this campaign wasn't going to be won like inside the convention halls, right? It's going to be won at the doorsteps of constituents and voters. And this weekend just reaffirmed to me that, like, if you're wealthy, if you're well connected, if you're like an entrenched elected Democrat, that you could like literally break your own rules to like maintain the status quo. Because after that happened, I did an appeal, and I went to the PERC committee and said, hey, according to your own bylaws, only delegates within the congressional district is allowed to speak during caucusing. And that didn't happen. I hope that you would consider a no endorsement or force it to the floor. And the conversation pretty much went, look, we're sorry. That was a mistake that was made. It won't happen again. But we appreciate all the great work that she's done, and we're just going to uphold the endorsement. That was pretty much the rationale. So, yeah,
That's got to
but
be. I mean,
the fight
it,
continued. Yeah.
I mean, I guess not surprising people to stand up for, like, two members of Congress who've been there forever, going to stand up for one another. But and you ran for city council, and like I know you were unopposed in your last election, but like you are not new to like having people try and stop you, or, to not being one of the outsiders. But has this been like a lesson, like, wow, just how kind of cloistered and small the Democratic Party is? Like, have you been surprised by that or taken aback?
You know, my friend John called me right after that happened. It was like, are you down to do some quick reflection? I'm like, yeah. I think a part of me, I wasn't surprised. I was just like disappointed. I was hoping to be proven wrong. Like, hey, I'm going to go through the caucusing. I'm going to go through the process. And, I think there's something brewing in the Democratic Party, because when I'm talking to delegates, there is this excitement of, that we need new leadership in the Democratic Party, and I was hoping like, all right, universe, prove me wrong, like prove me wrong. Like we can go in, share our collective agenda and let the Democratic Party know that we've lost people. I mean, 4 out of 5 newly registered voters in Sacramento do not choose the Democratic Party, right? We have lost folks. Folks have left the party. They have registered as declined as state or just tuned out overall. And it's really important that we go back to our values. And that was the pitch that I made during my opening speech to the delegates, is that, this is not about one congressional seat, but it's about the future of this country and the future of this party and where y'all want to take it, right? Like that is the question at hand. And they answered it this weekend. So, but I will say that members of, some of the delegates who did vote for me, I thank them for voting their conscience. And uh, I'll also share with you, Jordan, I mean, like when you go into these caucusing, like you have a list of like folks who you know that they're delegates. So you're like whipping votes, right? You're like making phone calls. And there's been some conversations that I've had with delegates about like they're afraid to lose their job, right? They're afraid that there could be some backlash if they, voted for me. And so like that's really serious, right? Like people were scared, to vote even to even take a no endorsement, right? I've been just saying, look, if you don't, as a delegate, if you're not voting, casting your ballot for me, take a no endorsement and let the voters decide. Like that was my pitch, right? Like, don't vote, then let the voters decide. And we got that outcome. But what I will say is that it's energized, parts of the Democratic base as well. Like, this is not what we want, and we'll prove it to you at the ballot box
You
and
know,
on the
so
field.
I want to like talk about. So I speak to a lot of primary challengers, and there's like that feeling of like there's this disconnect of the party. And obviously, the 2024 kind of proved that, and yet people are still running the same people running over and over again. And I want to talk about like the difference in approach and in terms of policy, but like before we even do that, like get back to introducing you to some degree. Like you are your daughter refugees, the oldest of 16. Like it's an incredible personal story. Like even to like get to this point where you're running for Congress, like you're members of the city council, like, but tell me, walk me through that because that is like, in and of itself, like quite the story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I was born and raised here in South Sacramento. My parents are Hmong refugees. And just for context, for people who may not know who the Hmong people are, during the Vietnam War, the United States recruited the Hmong to fight in the secret war of Laos, guerrilla warfare through the CIA. And if you know your history, it was a war we should have not participated in. And after the United States withdrew their troops, there was 20 to 30,000 Hmong soldiers, young boys, men, villagers that died. There was a complete genocide of our people. My parents fled Laos and, was in the jungle for about 6 months, crossed the Mekong River, and then made it to Thailand to seek refuge. And then they came here to the United States. And my parents came here, resettled here in Sacramento, and my grandparents, like the only skill they knew was farming, and so they rented land in Elk Grove, and they farmed, and they would sell at the farmers market like bok choy and like Hmong vegetables, and that was their job. It's just like farming, and that's how we made it. And then growing up in South Sacramento, yeah, I was a daughter of refugee, and so had it not been for critical safety net programs like our food assistance program, our public education, I would not be where I am today. And this is the reason why I am running for Congress, because I believe that government can truly work for the people if it's governed by the people. And I see the good that government and safety net programs can do. And so, yeah, I was born and raised here, went to the public school system, and it was the first in my family to go to college. I went to USF for undergrad and then UCLA for grad school. And a big reason why I went to college, what I will share with you all, was it wasn't so much to get the college degree. It was basically, as a young girl, I grew up really internalizing poverty because I was that good obedient Hmong daughter. I cooked, I cleaned, I take care of my siblings. But I always questioned why I didn't have the cool shoes. Or at night, I heard gunshots and people yelling. Or when I'm walking my siblings to school or to the bus stop, I saw things on the street that I shouldn't have seen. And I questioned these things. And as a young teenager, I wanted to leave Sacramento. So my impetus for like going to college wasn't so much a college degree, but it was like, I'm leaving Sacramento. I ain't coming back. Right. And then when I went to college was my first political awakening when I took a sociology class. I was a bio major, but I took a social class, and I read one line about the Hmong people. And I was like, we were recruited by the United States, and like a light bulb
Yeah,
went off. And then, I had to write a paper in college, and I called my dad from my dorm, and and I'm translating it from Hmong to English, right? Like, my conversation with him pretty much went like this, like, "Hey, dad, how are you doing?" He asked me how school's going. I said, "It's great. I have this paper I gotta write about. I wanna ask you some questions." And he's like, "Sure." And so my first question I asked him was like, "Did you know that we were recruited by the United States to fight in this war?" And my dad's like, "Yeah." I was like, "How come you never told me?" He goes, "Well, you never asked." When I think about that conversation, I think just growing up as a daughter among refugees, my parents just didn't want to talk about it. Like, they really wanted us to focus, in our classroom, do good, and like find a good job, go to college, right? They didn't want to talk about those things. But when think about little Mai, she would have known about her own history. I don't think I would have internalized poverty in that way, which is why I am such a big proponent of ethnic studies, which is also why when I was a school board member, I, worked to get ethnic studies a requirement in our K-12 school. And so that happened in college, and that was my political awakening. And then I went to UCLA, and then I came back home. And the reason why I left Sacramento was because of poverty, but it's also the reason why I returned home to take care of mom and dad and all my siblings. And when I came
yeah.
back, I looked around the neighborhood and recognized that not a lot had changed. And I thought to myself, Jordan, like, what good is it to have two masters from UCLA when your family and your community is still struggling? And I walked my neighborhoods in Meadowview, Detroit, and so much disinvestment, lack of investment in our communities. So I took what I learned at UCLA organizing with APALA, the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, what I learned in ethnic studies, and then I was like, let's organize, let's get our people registered to vote. So I started an organization called HIP, Hmong Innovating Politics, money in a shoebox underneath our bed. And now we're a statewide organization. And we registered, our communities to try not to vote. And how I actually got involved in the political scene of running for office was in 2013, there was like these massive school closures happening in South Sacramento, not in wealthier neighborhoods, but in low income neighborhoods. And many of those neighborhoods had like our Hmong and our Southeast Asian parents, our Black, our Latino, a lot of our limited English proficient parents. And they came to HIP, they came to us saying, "Aren't we heard our schools being closed? What do we do?" And they knew us because we were holding these like voter education forums. And so we asked them, "Do you know who your school board member is?" And they said no. And that was when we realized, oh, we have a lot of like civic engagement education we need to do with our parents. And so we tried to stop the school closure. We saved a few schools. We repurposed a few schools. But that was when some of the parents asked me, "Hey, Ma, you should run for school board." And I was like, "Nah, I'm cool. Like first of all, like it's only like $300 a month, and I'm like a broke student, like coming back from college. I got to work." And they were like, "Well, it's really important. We got somebody on the school board that understand what our babies are going through." And I said, "No, because I don't have any kids in the school district. And I think a parent should be on the school board because I really believe they're the best advocates for their kids." And then one of the parents was like, "Well, how many nieces and nephews do you have in the school district?" And I started counting and I was like, 32.
I was like, "Hey, just siblings alone, it's like
Yeah,
there's must
siblings
be still have
alone. Yeah, I had
siblings
siblings
in
going through the
school."
school. Yeah. And up to that point, about half of my siblings were, in the school district. But I also had like 32 nieces and nephews. And
Wow.
um, so yeah, I ran for school board in 2016. And that was actually during the first Trump administration. And I didn't wait around for permission. We led the effort to pass the first ever safe haven resolution to protect our undocumented students. And it became a model language for the state of California. We were the first school district in the state of California to pass that policy. And then, just like I shared with you, as an organizer, I fought for ethnic studies. And then when I became a school board member, I'm like, oh, as a policymaker, we're going to make this happen. And so we worked to make ethnic studies a requirement in our high schools. And then I decided to run for city council. And I'll share with you, Jordan, why is because what I also learned as a school board member and as an organizer is that we could do everything we can to support our teachers and our students inside the classroom. But when they leave our neighborhood schools, they go back into the neighborhoods. And if they don't have access to recreational opportunities, if their parks are not safe, if they don't have access to these things, they're going to have the same learning outcomes. And there was no one I felt at the time that was championing young people in the city of Sacramento. So in 2020, I ran for city council, but I didn't do that just doing it. I wanted to make sure we built a bench because I never leave a seat because we've done so much work with the community that we ran a parallel campaign to make sure that we had someone there. And so I ran for city council in 2020. And if y'all remember, that was like during the height of the COVID
Yeah.
pandemic. So I was sworn in online. And then as a city councilwoman in the Sacramento area, I represented the zip code with the highest cases of COVID. And a big part of that is because I represent South Sacramento and it's incredibly diverse. And we have many diverse families that live in multi-generational households. So like when one person's infected with COVID, everybody's infected with COVID. That's why we had high cases. And so I put my organizer hat on and I was like, we got to do everything we can to protect and vaccinate our community. And when the vaccine started rolling out, they were rolling out in like wealthy neighborhoods. Like nobody was looking at South Sacramento, even though the data said that we had the highest cases. And so I put my organizer hat on, organized with 20 plus organizations in Sacramento, told the county they better give me my first 1,000 vaccine or I'm going to go to the news. Like, I'm going to make it really hard for y'all. And so we got our first 1,000 and then we ended up running vaccination clinic for a whole year. Something I'm really proud of as a city council member. And then, yeah, we've done some really good work on the city council. I'm proud to have co-led with our young people, establishing the first ever Sacramento Children's Fund, young people forcing mayor and council to make them a priority. So, cannabis revenue that comes into the city, 40% is guaranteed for our young people impacted by poverty, violence, and trauma. I've been proud to lead 3 citywide ballot measures, and we're 3 for 3. I share that with you, Jordan, because as a progressive on the city council, you'll get the critique like, oh, she's on the like 8-1 or the 7-2 vote. But when it's time to actually like do some citywide like measures and do some like institutional change, you know who they want to partner with? They want to partner with Mai Vang because they know that we know how to organize and we know what it takes to actually um, get things done, right? And so I share that because I don't know any other council member that has served for 4 years and has passed 3 citywide ballot measures. And so now I want to take that same fight, that same heart and hustle to DC. That's what we need in this region. And the other piece is the congresswoman. She hasn't held a town hall in many years. She just held one last fall because there's a viable candidate in the race, and there was a lot of pressure for her to hold a town hall. And how I govern at the local level is how I plan to govern when I get to DC. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to ask. Like, there's, I've been doing this for a while now, talking to people running in primaries, and we're speaking with AOC in 2018. People, running in like, it's there's the kind of the larger sense that like there's a state Democratic establishment, and there's like actual stuff on the ground, right? And it's one thing to like vote a certain way when something comes up, like all Congress votes for something, but like, what are the things that you think? Maybe she's no longer as connected. She, like you said, she's married to a billionaire now. Um, what are the things that you think the community is not getting from, Representative Matsui?
Well, one, I think that we're not able to move a progressive agenda just in this country because of, I would say, because of seats like this. In Congressional District 7, we are a safe Democratic seat. That actually means that we should be leveraging the seat and we should be fighting and organizing and pushing relentlessly for progressive policy to ensure that we're moving our agenda at a national level, right? So that's my first thing is that I don't think that she has fought in that way. It has been very comfortable, right? And I think that this seat in particular, because it's a safe Democratic seat, it needs to be an added voice through the national progressive movement, a voice for the people in Congress, like pushing for Medicare for all, right? Overturning Citizens United, ensuring that our dollars are, invested in systems of care, and that those are really key things. And she hasn't done that. I think it's been like just a very safe seat. So it's like we just vote in a line with the Dems, but like not using the seat as a way to really push for those progressive policies that we need to address the needs of families. And I think that's really important, especially because CD7, it's Sacramento. We are the capital of California, the fourth largest economy, and so many of our families are struggling right now. And it's not just Sacramento, right? Because CD7, if folks are watching, it is Elk Grove, it is Lodi, it is Gulf, it is now El Dorado. And I don't know, Jordy, if you know this, but Prop 50 passed, right? And so that
Yep.
means that our lines change. What I will share with you is that because of Prop 50, Congressional District 7 is a little bit more purple now. It's not as blue as it
Mhm.
used to be. And so I
I was gonna
often,
ask about that.
yeah, I also, people may say to me when I was supporting Prop 50, is like, why would you support Prop 50? It actually is a disadvantage to you because the district becomes more purple. Well, one, I mean, I think we have to use every tool in our toolbox to fight against this like fascist president. So I was all in for Prop 50. The other piece is I supported Prop 50 also, and it wasn't so much whether it was gonna be a blue seat. I mean, it's a little bit more purple now, but my argument is, one, it actually helps us. One, because there are new areas in the congressional district that she has not represented, which
Mhm.
means she doesn't have name recognition, which means it's fair game. Whoever has the strongest field game will win those areas. And in city and towns that are purple or red, I am willing to go into those spaces and have town halls and to have those conversations with Republicans or independents or to kind of state. I don't think the congresswoman is willing to do that, right? And I do believe that no matter your political identity, whether you're a Republican or a decline to state, I really do believe that you care about the same issues that we all care deeply about, right? Like access to housing and healthcare. And so I look forward to beating the incumbent with our field game and with our messaging. I think that's going to be key.
So let's say like you make it in, right? Let's say big news. You win the primary. You go to Congress. Like obviously there's the stopping Trump. Everything possible. Everything that can be done, right? Like whether it's defunding ICE or all the like. What to you are the big, along with not having a fascist, like the big priorities. If you were to have a majority, if you could move things, like, if you were able to like, hey, here's the big changes we need to enact, not just stop things.
Yeah, I think once we have the house back, I think the accountability and oversight piece is going to be really key. And holding holding this administration accountable, right? I think that's going to be really key. And then the other piece I will say is as someone who will be a freshman, and I acknowledge that, is also making sure that I'm building those relationships, those key relationships that's necessary to get things done in the halls of Congress. But I will also say, I think as a progressive caucus, like working with my colleagues to make sure that we have a true agenda, that we're moving together. Because the other piece is if we don't get things done, I think that voters will be very upset at us, right? And so working with my colleagues, the progressive caucus, to make sure that we have a shared vision and agenda to move things forward. I mean, the things that we are proposing, Jordan, is not like anything that's new. Like Medicare for all is something that our progressive, Congress electeds and senators have been trying to push, but we haven't had the political will. And I think that we need more voices in Congress that reflects that, right? And so, in addition to those things that I mentioned, I think also making sure that we send a clear message and sign on to those key bills that have been there for a while, so that they're having a groundswell of new electeds to supporting that movement.
I know, housing's a big issue in California as well, and, you purchase public land or you have the city do it, and so I'm curious about that. I mean, a couple of years ago, I went to California, to Northern California, Sacramento outskirts, and I did a story on the effort to make that Tech City, California forever. And it's still ongoing. And it was really interesting. And that's a bunch of billionaires who are trying to create their own, I guess, like their own world. But the argument they were trying to make was that there's just so little housing in California. And I know that's like a state issue, but it's also a federal issue. And so I'm curious, like, yeah, I live in New York City, and so housing is huge history here as well. Like, how do you think the federal government can impact that and like really make a huge difference?
Yeah, no. So several things, especially because I'm a city council member, I see the ways in which these federal dollars come to the local level and how we use them. So, one, I think supporting our housing choice vouchers, right? What these housing vouchers, what we need more of it because we need to be able to help low income families, seniors, people with disabilities to be able to afford rent in the private market, right? And so I think that we need to scale that up. Another piece is also the federal government also play a role in our low income housing tax credit. And this is primarily like our federal tool that we use to build more affordable housing, where we offer tax credits, right, to developers to build or rehabilitate affordable units, right? We need to make sure that we invest in those things. And also, we need more federal block grants. We get block grants to state and cities to build more homes, rehabilitate more affordable housing. That's really key. I think that we need more dollars. I mean, if we're doing $50,000 bonuses for ICE and we're, funding like DHS at 175 billion, like it's about the political will. Can we redirect those dollars into a national housing trust fund, right? And focus on our extremely low income households. I think that we could also do FHA loans where there's like government backed mortgages that can help with lower, down payment. But there's a lot of barriers for first time home buyers. And so those are some of the concepts, some of the things about housing that I think the federal government can. The question is, do we have the political will to make sure that our budget reflects our values, right? Like that is the key thing. But those are some of the things that I would push as Congresswoman because I've seen the ways in which that it has helped at the local level, and we need more of that resource.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like all the sheer amount of money that goes into ICE and stuff like that. Is that something you would prioritize defunding ICE?
Yeah, I have taken a position on abolishing ICE. And a big part of this is also because the fight is deeply personal for me. I have family members who are refugees. I have family members who are dreamers in DACA. I have family members who wake up really afraid if they're going to be separated from their loved ones. And just last week, Jordan, I went with my uncle to the federal mosque building. He does his annual routine check-in. Um, and I was really scared. I will say to you, I was really scared. I was with him and my auntie and, he, submitted his paper. We waited in the waiting room and just was just praying that they wouldn't detain him, and they didn't. And his next hearing is 3 months. Usually it's annually, but no, the next session is 3 months. And so like this fight is really personal for me. Immigration is one of the key things that I've been talking a lot about the campaign. I mean, as a congresswoman, there are key things that I would be advocating for in terms of key policy is that we need to like establish a more accessible and clear pathway to legal status, and that includes like our TPS recipients, our Dreamers, our DACA, because depending on what administration takes over, they're always like in this temporary space, and we need to make sure that it's permanent. And then the other piece is we need to increase funding for citizenship and immigration services to speed up processing times because it does take a long time for it to happen. I also think we need to end like these arbitrary limits on like based employment based green cards. And then obviously we also have to overturn like the freaking Supreme Court, right? Like the ruling that they had where you can actually discriminate someone based on their race, the language that they speak, their employment. And then obviously we have to also end all inhumane deportation, right? And ICE didn't exist before 2003. 2003 was when I graduated from high school, right? It didn't exist then and it can be abolished now. So
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you're married to your husband's the son of Mexican immigrants, and so like on both sides, both your immediate family, then his family. I mean, imagine like that it's a constant thing hanging over your heads.
it is. It is. And it is
No,
the reason why I like we are here, right? Like the conversation I had with the congresswoman. If she would have given me something, Jordan, like just something, like I support like dream running cognitive citizenship or something, like give me something. But it was like, what is our position? And it
yeah,
just my heart just dropped. Like I took off my council hat during that moment. And I just told myself, like, as someone who grew up here in South Sacramento, like, this is who I want representing me in the halls of Congress. And the answer is no. Like, I want someone who's going to fight, not just like, be unapologetic about the issues and talk about our vision, but also someone who understands what is happening on the ground. That is so important. So, yeah.
yeah, and so I mean, well, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but speaking of your husband, like you said, Doris Matsui, the member of Congress, your representative there, she married to a billionaire, and you're married to someone who is very much not a billionaire. So talk about like that understanding of what it's like to like try to make it day by day versus literally being married to one of the richest people in the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm someone with college student debt. I don't know the last time the congresswoman went grocery shopping and looked at, right, her bank account, or filled up her car with gas. I think these are the struggles of so many of our families. Or balance your checking account to figure out like do you have enough for next month's mortgage. I mean, these are the issues that so many of our working families are going through right now. And I think that it's really important that when we have leaders in the halls of Congress, they need to understand that. And that makes you a better leader as well when you really know what is happening on the ground. So, and yeah, I'm married to a son of a Mexican immigrant, so we are a very diverse family as well. And I understand a lot of the issues that are facing our working families in this region, and so that's why we're in this race. And I often share that yes, it's me running, but it's really not just me running. It's like all of us running. Like we are running together because it's time for change in this region.
Yeah, and like there has never been a Hmong member of Congress, right? You'd be the first. Do you feel like a like excitement and all this responsibility like on your shoulders with that?
Um, if when it does happen, not if, when it does happen, I think the community would be really excited and proud. I mean, we've been in this country for 50 years. Actually, this last year was the 50th anniversary since the Hmong arrived in the United States. And it's a huge milestone for our community if we are able to get someone in the halls of Congress. But what I will say with you is that, yes, I'm Hmong, but the issues that we care about, housing, healthcare, all of these issues are the same issues that other communities care
Yeah.
about as well. So, yes, when we get to the halls of Congress, I will be the first Hmong woman and first Hmong individual in Congress, but I'm there to represent all people.
And so, kind of last question for you. Like it's a little over 3 months until the primary. You mentioned being very like focused on field. Like, what is the strategy to overcome? Because, like you said, we spoke at the beginning of this. People who hadn't listened, who weren't here. Democratic Party in California is not always is a bit hostile in some ways. You've got your supporters, but there's an establishment there that doesn't necessarily want a new nominee. And so, like, what is the strategy? Like, how do you outdo someone who's married to a billionaire who's got Lockheed Martin donations, all that.
Well, what I will share with you is that I know how to mobilize. I know what it takes to have collective action and to have a people power movement from campaigns to the regional level. And so what's gonna take? It's gonna take a groundswell of volunteers to knock on all the doors. But I also think activating a base that hasn't been activated. Like we have a young population of voters as well, and I think it's really important that they turn out because when we do turn out, we are the margin of victory, and that's really key. It's something that I've been sharing with a lot of folks is that like the future is not predetermined. It is shaped by those who can reimagine what that looks like and those who are willing to fight for it. And I'm willing to fight for it. And I know that our volunteers are willing to fight for it too. And so we're gonna outwalk them. We're not gonna outcall them and we're never gonna outspend them. That's for sure. We know that. But we know that we have the volunteers and we have the message and we have the heart. We have the heart and hustle. The only way to beat organized money is organized people, and we have that.
It's really exciting, that, like, do you there's a lot of people running in primaries, and do you feel like this is like a sea change moment for the Democratic Party?
Do I feel that what?
It's like a sea change moment for the Democratic Party, like, this is like a because we thought that maybe a few years ago, and now, it
Oh,
didn't happen, but
yeah, absolutely. And if they're not going to pass down the torch, Jordan, we'll take it from them.
absolutely. Well, listen, how can people find you, and your campaign online?
They can go to myforus.com to learn more. Y'all can also check out our social media platforms. Our handle is at my for us. And so, yeah, tap in, let us know, donate to our campaign. We don't take any corporate PAC money, so it's completely grassroots. And yeah, tap in and join the movement. So yeah, and Jordan, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for doing it, really appreciate it. Everybody, have a good night, my thanks, and, good luck with the campaign.
Thank you.
Alright.
Okay.